Most people believe emotions make them stronger. Reality is different. Uncontrolled emotions make people predictable, and predictable people are easy to manipulate. Anger, fear, jealousy, attachment, and validation quietly control the decisions of millions every day. Most people think they are acting logically, but they are simply reacting emotionally. Machiavelli understood a brutal truth about human nature. The person who controls emotions controls power. Calm people often dominate emotional people because they think before reacting, while weak individuals lose control instantly. Disciplined people stay silent, observe carefully, and act strategically. Modern society secretly rewards emotional weakness because emotional people are easier to control. Social media feeds outrage, fear, comparison, and attention addiction daily. Slowly, people lose the ability to think clearly because emotions begin controlling their decisions. This happens constantly in real life. One person reacts with anger and destroys opportunities. Another remains calm under pressure and gains respect. Over time, the calm person builds power while the emotional person builds regret. The dangerous part is that emotions feel truthful in the moment. Anger feels powerful. Revenge feels satisfying. Attachment feels necessary. But emotions often destroy logic exactly when logic is needed most. In this video, you will learn the hidden psychological rules behind emotional control, manipulation, reactions, and mental discipline. Because emotional people do not lose power instantly, they lose it slowly through emotional decisions. Law 1. Emotional people are easy to control. The moment emotions control your mind, other people gain control over your decisions. Angry people become predictable. Desperate people become weak. Emotionally attached people become blind. This is why powerful individuals rarely react emotionally in public. They understand that emotional reactions expose weakness, intentions, and mental instability. Machiavelli understood that emotional control is psychological power. Calm people observe while emotional people react. One thinks strategically, the other loses control in the moment. And in most situations, the person who stays calm gains the advantage because emotional people often destroy themselves without realizing it. Modern society constantly manipulates emotions because emotional people are easier to influence. Social media feeds outrage, fear, comparison, jealousy, and validation addiction every day. The goal is simple: keep people emotionally reactive instead of mentally disciplined. A distracted emotional mind becomes easier to sell to, control, and manipulate. This happens constantly in real life. One person gets insulted and immediately reacts with anger, damaging relationships and reputation. Another stays calm, understands the situation, and keeps control over himself. Over time, the calm person gains respect, while the emotional person gains regret. The dangerous part is that emotional reactions feel justified in the moment. Anger feels powerful. Revenge feels satisfying. Attachment feels necessary. But emotions often destroy logic exactly when logic is needed most. Emotion feels powerful temporarily, but emotional control creates real power. 2. Attachment destroys logic. Or the more emotionally attached a person becomes, the weaker their decisions usually become. Attachment blinds people. It makes them ignore red flags, tolerate disrespect, and lose control over logic. Emotionally attached people often destroy themselves, protecting situations that are slowly destroying them. Machiavelli understood that attachment creates vulnerability. The moment someone becomes emotionally dependent, fear enters the mind. Fear of rejection, abandonment, or losing attention. And once fear controls a person, logic starts disappearing. Powerful people never allow emotions to fully control judgment. Modern society encourages emotional dependency everywhere. People become addicted to validation, relationships, approval, and emotional comfort. Slowly, they stop thinking independently because their emotions become controlled by other people and situations. This happens constantly in real life. One person walks away calmly from disrespect because logic tells him it is necessary. Another stays emotionally attached and continues suffering because emotions refuse to let go. Over time, one gains peace, while the other gains emotional damage. The dangerous part is that attachment feels like love or loyalty in the moment. But uncontrolled attachment often creates weakness instead of strength. Emotional dependency makes people easier to manipulate because fear begins controlling their actions. Attachment feels powerful temporarily, but emotional independence creates real freedom. Law 3. Anger makes people self-destruct. Anger feels powerful in the moment, but most of the time it destroys the person. Feeling it more than the target itself, angry people stop thinking clearly. Logic disappears. Ego takes control, and within seconds, people destroy relationships, opportunities, reputation, and sometimes their entire future because they reacted emotionally instead of strategically. Machiavelli understood that anger is one of the easiest emotions to manipulate. A person who loses emotional control becomes predictable. Calm individuals know this. They stay patient while emotional people expose weaknesses through reactions, words, and impulsive decisions. Modern society constantly encourages outrage because angry people are easier to control and easier to manipulate. Social media, politics, news, and online arguments all profit from emotional reactions. The more emotionally reactive people become, the less clearly they think. This happens constantly in real life. One person gets insulted and immediately explodes in anger, damaging relationships and losing respect. Another remains calm, controls emotions, and leaves with dignity. Over time, one gains regret while the other gains power. The dangerous part is that anger feels justified in the moment. Revenge feels satisfying. Aggression feels dominant. But uncontrolled anger often creates consequences that last far longer than the emotion itself. Anger feels powerful temporarily, but emotional control creates lasting power. Law 4. Fear makes people obey. Fear controls more people than intelligence ever will. Most people do not make decisions based on logic. They make decisions based on fear. Fear of rejection, failure, judgment, loneliness, losing money, or losing approval. And once fear enters the mind, freedom disappears slowly. Machiavelli understood that fearful people become obedient. They stop taking risks, stop speaking honestly, and start choosing comfort over growth. Powerful people understand this deeply, which is why they stay calm under pressure, while others panic and lose control. Modern society constantly uses fear to control behavior. News spreads panic. Social media spreads insecurity. Schools train obedience. People become afraid of failure, criticism, and standing alone. Slowly, they stop thinking independently because fear begins controlling their actions daily. This happens constantly in real life. One person avoids opportunities because fear tells him he might fail. Another acts despite fear and slowly builds confidence, power, and freedom. Over time, one stays trapped while the other grows stronger. The dangerous part is that fear often disguises itself as safety. Staying silent feels safe. Avoiding risks feels comfortable. Following the crowd feels easier. But fear quietly destroys potential because people start living to avoid pain instead of chasing growth. Fear creates obedience temporarily, but courage creates freedom and power forever. 5. Validation makes people weak. The moment a person becomes addicted to approval, freedom starts disappearing. People who constantly need validation slowly lose the ability to think independently because their decisions become controlled by attention, opinions, and acceptance from others. Machiavelli understood that people who seek approval are easy to manipulate. They fear criticism, rejection, and standing alone. Because of this, they constantly change behavior to please others instead of building real confidence. Powerful people do not need constant validation because their self-worth is not controlled by outside opinions. Modern society is built around validation addiction. Social media trains people to chase likes, attention, followers, and approval daily. Slowly, people stop living for themselves and start performing for others. A person who depends on validation eventually loses his real identity. This happens constantly in real life. One person speaks honestly even if others disagree. Another changes opinions constantly just to be accepted by the crowd. Over time, one builds respect while the other becomes controlled by public opinion. The dangerous part is that validation feels good in the moment. Attention feels rewarding. Approval feels comforting. But dependency on validation creates weakness because people become afraid of criticism and rejection. Validation creates temporary happiness, but self-control creates real confidence.